Hey there. This is Reese Ryan. Welcome to Reese Ryan Writes, where authors and readers connect. I'm Reese Ryan, author of sexy, emotional romantic fiction featuring lots of family drama, some surprising secrets, and a big cast of complicated, sometimes messy characters. And I am so excited today to be connecting with one of my favorite people in author world, and that is author Farrah Rochon. And Farrah is not just the author of just really smart, engaging, wonderful stories, or romantic stories about diverse characters, but she's also just a really well-rounded person. She is a globetrotter who has been to some truly amazing places in the world and who I've been living through vicariously through her photos on social media because she's been to some amazing places in the world. She is a diehard Disney World attendee. She's been there lots of times and just a huge fan of Broadway. So, and then on top of all of that, she is a staunch advocate for diversity in fiction. And I'm so glad to talk to her today because if you've been in Romancelandia just even a little bit this year, then you have seen her book, The Boyfriend Project. You've seen that cover everywhere because it's made best of lists, including Entertainment Weekly, Library Reads, and Book of the Month. So I'm super excited to get into this and to talk about this story and to get behind the scenes on it. So I'm going to bring Farrah in. Hey there, Farrah.
Hi. Am I in the whole shot?
Hi. Okay. I can see you. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm good. Hello.
Are you doing? It's so good to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. It's been a long week. So do I look exhausted? I'm a little exhausted.
I bet it has.
But
I bet it has everywhere, and I understand because it's been everywhere. So I totally get that. So I'm gonna tell you, I don't like to do canned bio. Partly because I'm lazy, but partly because I just like for you to, I just want you to be able to tell readers a little bit about you and what you write.
Well, you kind of got me in your intro. I travel, I like Disney World, and I like Broadway. That's about, it. I also like sports and chocolate. But that's all I am. I'm also the owner I'm a mom dog, and he is probably going to walk in this room because he's been very upset with me lately for staying in this room and doing these things all week. So I'm waiting you're going to hear the door open. That's the dog coming in to give me the side eye. Yeah. But yeah, I write, 30-some plus books, African-American romance, wrote quite a few books for Harlequin, Dorchester Publishing, Kensington, and now I'm with Grand Central. And this is my first, it's my first trade paperback. And of course, I don't have the trade paperback with me. I only have the Book of the Month Club version back here. I forgot to pull the other one. But it's my first, trade paperback. It's kind of more of I've been calling it romantic women's fiction. Because it's got somewhat of a women's fiction feel to it. It's still a romance, but it's a little different from what I've been writing.
Well, I'm glad you brought some of those things up because one of the things I wanted to start with is, and first of all, I keep forgetting, we're both with Grand Central now because we're both with Harlequin and Kamani Romance as well. I don't think it's the same time, but I think I came after you for sure. So anyway, one of the first things I wanted to ask you is how this whole project came about, because you were doing a lot of, we're doing some trad publishing, and then you were doing tons of indie stuff. Yeah. So now you're into this, like you said, your first trade paperback deal. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about how that whole thing came about.
Well, it's, I left Harlequin, and I think my last book with them came out in February of 2016. I've been doing hybrid, writing both for myself and Harlequin at the time. And I decided that, I can do a lot better just writing for myself. I knew I wanted to continue to write mostly the categories type romances. They got to be a little bit bigger, but I had that freedom to just let the story go. So I was enjoying that. But when I came up with the idea for the Boyfriend Project, it just had a bigger feel to it. So I knew I wanted to try to take it back to traditional publishing. And that's what I did. Oh, we have a person. Did Reese leave? Is Reese there? Reese. Hi, Kay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, is Reese here?
I'm sorry. I was answering you. You couldn't hear me. I'm sorry.
Okay. You muted yourself. We have people popping up. I like this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, when I got the idea for the story, and I started writing it, I knew it was not going to be a category romance for sure. And then I just knew it was bigger than, I said it in another interview earlier this week, but I have a very nice indie audience. But I knew that my indie audience is, kind of small. And I've been fine writing for them, because I knew I had my loyal readers, but I knew this was the kind of book that could get me more readers. So that's when I decided, okay, I can't do it on my own. I need a publishing company that's going to, promote it and be able to do more than I can do for it. So it turned out to be a good idea.
It did indeed, because my goodness, I am so excited for you every time I see all the buzz that this book is getting. Not that your other books weren't, popular and well read, but was it amazing, surprising, shocking to you to see all the books was getting?
Nothing has been even close to this, and that is huge thanks to Grand Central. I knew from the fabulous publicist that I have with them and the plan that she put together. I just said, wow, the first time she sent me that plan, because I knew I never had a publisher who was even willing to do when it was still half the plan, that she had. So they put so much behind this book, just the effort that she's put into getting it out there. So yeah, hats off to them. I could not be more happy with what they've done.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, this conversation is just going to go wherever it goes. So let me just give you that right there. But since you brought that up, I think that is one of the biggest things that, we need to discuss about this whole thing about, with Black books and stuff and different books. You just said that the publicists put a lot into it. They put a lot of effort into it. They believed in the book, and, they put their money and time where their mouth was. And I think that's a key book. If you put your money behind just your mainstream books, of course those books are going to do well.
Yeah.
You're just going to let these other books die on the vine and, publish them just to say you published a diverse book.
Yeah.
Not really put any support behind it. So, we're seeing how an amazing book, because there's tons of amazing books out there written.
Yeah. They just need to be,
right.
Yeah.
So to see, I'm just like, every time I see that book popping up somewhere else, it's like it follows me everywhere. I absolutely love it every time, and that was before it even came out, because the book just came out like this week, right? This Tuesday.
Yeah, it came out on Tuesday.
It feels like it's been out like all year.
Yeah. Actually, like the book of the month, a lot of people have read it, because the book of the month, when they picked it for May, which was just amazing, they had it as an early release. So it was exclusively available to their members a month early. So it feels like it's been out for a while for me too, because, they've been posting all on Instagram. I've had a ton of people who read it through Book of the Month. So yeah, it's been kind of like a slow rollout to the release. It's like it got released here, and then they put a bunch of arcs, and, the publicist, she really, at one time I questioned, I was like, are we sure about this? You're really a lot of books. And she's like, trust me. And I'm so happy I trusted her. So, because it helped to create the buzz. And it all culminated to this week, which has been exhausting, but amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's what I wanted. It's the reason, I had a very strategic plan when it came to, because you know me, and it's like, I know we've got people here, and I'm going to try to make sure it's like we're not just chatting, because I might say something I shouldn't. Like way too like me and Reese were talking. But it was the reason that I decided to go back to traditional publishing, because like I said, I had my audience. I could have gone, just gone on publishing my indie books, but I knew exactly why I needed a publishing house behind me. And that was one of the things when I talked to my agent about doing it. It's like, I know what I want. Money's nice, but in advance, is nice. A nice advance is great, but knowing that they're actually going to invest in it, that was the thing because I could do the other stuff, on my own.
Right.
I needed someone.
That's a huge consideration. That's a really huge consideration, is how much is going to be invested into the book.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's why I did this, because indie is great. I've been really happy as an indie author, but it really is the absolute best decision I could have made. I'm so happy that I did it.
So you were said, and when you had the idea for this book, you knew that you wanted to do something bigger with it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell us a little bit. Well, first of all, let me step back. Let's start with that cover, that amazing cover that we see everywhere, right? So first of all, let's kind of start with the story behind the story on that cover. So, in terms of the fact, illustrated cover versus photographs, and then the whole creative process. Can you just give a little bit of some insight into how the cover came about?
So I knew, even before I talked to them, I knew I'd probably have an illustrated cover, because you've been publishing enough to know that these things happen in waves. I knew that we were getting into a wave of even romances that would be in mass market, usually being put in trade, and then in these illustrated covers. It started with the Kiss Quotient and the Wedding Date. So I figured, okay, I'll probably have one of those. So my fabulous editor, she invited me to put a Pinterest board up where we would have like a private Pinterest board.
Yes.
And she was like, put cover ideas out there. And so that's what I started doing. I just found a bunch of pretty people. Well, I knew the hero. I had the hero even before that. And I just started finding people, and she just took ideas, and we went, I think they did like maybe 3 or 4 versions of that cover, probably more. I saw, like 3 or 4 different versions, from very early sketches to another one that was totally different, and it was more orange, and it was completely different to what we have now. And I absolutely adore. I know that cover has been everywhere, and people are going to be sick of it by Wednesday. But I have, I've had it in my phone for a much longer time, and I'm not sick of it yet. So yeah, I love the cover.
Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask, is like, how many versions did it take to get to that? Because I know I've had some covers where almost when I got the cover, it was perfect, like Savannah Secrets. I was literally holding, I don't know about you, I was literally holding my breath with Savannah Secrets, because that was my first book with Desire. And they hadn't had a whole lot of authors of color prior to me. I think it was just like Brenda Jackson. So I was like really nervous about what I was going to get. So I was holding my breath when I got that email, and like I was so happy.
So pretty.
I screamed. It was like the only thing I asked them to change was I wanted her eyes lightened just like a tad bit, because she has hazel eyes. But other than that, it's pretty much just how they delivered it the first time. But that doesn't always happen. So,
yeah. And who knows? Like I said, I saw like 3 or 4 versions of it, but who knows how many they had that they didn't even show me. And it was the first time that I'd ever had, a publisher even come back and ask, so much. They wanted my input. So yeah, and they did it until they got it right. And they drew the faces of the people that I had. on those pictures, those are like portraits of, those people that I use. That's how they got every single thing right, down to me telling them the foundation that would get my heroine's skin color exactly how.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's always great when you get, you work with a house that's that really cares and listens that much.
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate with, working with Harlequin Desire. They seem to really be knocking these covers out.
Wow, the Desire and the Duke Desire covers have
been amazing, right? So that kind of commitment to getting it right is so important. Yeah. It's so important, and it's so big in your relationship with that publishing house, for sure. So, okay, so that's cool. And so when you said when you had the story in your head, you knew that you wanted to do something bigger with us. So there's two things I want to get: the story behind the story on both the story itself and the concept and stuff, but also the individual characters. Okay. So you decided which one to do first, because sometimes it's hard to tell one without getting too much into the other. So, I want the background story on all of those things, the story and the characters.
So the story idea came first. It's because it just came from Twitter. Mm-hmm. I was on Twitter, and there was this story. Someone was tweeting about this couple, and I can't remember exactly what it was about, but it was a live tweet that had gone viral. And I just remember that the couple was in the airplane, and the person was like a seat or so back, and she was live tweeting about whatever was happening with them. But I remember looking at my phone and just refreshing, waiting for the next tweet. And, and it was like being a whole bunch of other people, we were sucked into this story. And that's where I got the idea. I was like, this is like really cool. I should do a story where, these people go viral because of a live tweet that happened. So that's what happens. That's not a spoiler. It happens in the very first chapter of the book. And it's how my three characters, it's how the three girls who are, it's a 3-book series. Each girl is going to have a book. It's how they meet, because they're all dating. One of them's on a date, and she's live tweeting it because the date is going so horribly. And the other two realize that, hey, that sounds like my boyfriend. And they all confront him.
Already.
Yeah, they all confront him at the restaurant. Somebody, of course, is recording it, and the next morning they find out that their confrontation has gone viral online. So,
oh my God, that sounds awesome. And of course, it is on my TBR list. My deadlines have been crazy. I got
oh gosh, I know.
Yeah, you understand. So
I'm really happy I turned my book in before this week. I probably would just be in a closet crying if I was sitting there on deadline. I have this small window where I can do all of this before I have to get back to work. So
yeah.
Small blessings.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you were able to make time for us. That is such a cool idea. Because people always want to know where your story ideas come from. And a lot of times as an author, you don't really, it's not always some specific thing like that. So that's really cool. You do have a story like that.
Exactly. I have all the books that I've written. If you ask me where I got the story for this, I'd be like, I don't know. This one very specifically, I remember when I got that idea for it. So yeah, it works for this one.
That is awesome. So now tell us a little bit about each of the characters, the main character.
Let's see. So the heroine of this one is Samaya Brooks. She is a software engineer in Austin, Texas. She is very badass. She's only been at her current job for about 3 years, but she's already climbed up, in the company. She's one of the only women of color and only Black woman in this company. So, in the book, I definitely explore what it means for a Black woman in STEM to have to navigate, that world, and having the pressure of being the only Black woman in the company. So yeah. You'll get that in there. I couldn't write a character in STEM without exploring, the pressure that she feels to always perform in there. So that's my heroine. The hero is Daniel Collins. He is part half Black, half Korean, also computer nerd. He starts at the company on the same day that Samaya goes back to work after the viral video. And after deciding that she's putting off men for the next 6 months, of course, that's when he shows up. And he's a new hire at the company, so she thinks. But he may have another reason for being there.
I love it. What made you make these characters have careers in STEM?
Just, I don't know, it came about because, well, I know the book was, I wanted to set it in Austin, or did it, I can't remember if I came up with her being in STEM first or the Austin thing first, but I know those two kind of married together. But I knew she was going to be working on an app and stuff. It just came about. Yeah, she'll be like, you know, a software. I like the idea of her being a software designer type thing.
I love seeing heroines and heroes, but especially heroines who are in STEM. And I love that you cover that whole issue about what it's like for her being one of the few people of color, like the only woman of color in STEM, because we know that there's a shortage of women in STEM, but especially women of color. And so that's cool. I mean, I realize for a lot of people, you know, romance is like an escape or whatever, but and I get that. But to me, I still want to see some of those things. You know, I want to see those issues being addressed at least. you know, that's cool. What made you decide to set it in Austin?
Well, I lived there for a few years. And I know it's a very big tech place. I also, you know, if you read my books, you know that I kind of make the setting another character. So I tend to set my books in places that have a lot of character, even if I have to make it up in my, you know, imaginary towns that I made. But Austin as a city, I think there's so much to it. I absolutely love that city. So yeah, I knew it was the perfect place to set the book. And I can't wait to go back and have like a research trip for book 2.
What I was going to ask is, in the entire series going to be set in Austin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in book 2, because I'm already done with book 2, they do kind of go to North Carolina for a little while. But for most of the book, it's all set in Austin.
Okay. Yeah. I've been to it's like I've been to every city in Texas except for Austin.
Oh gosh, Austin, that's one.
Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. I have not been to Austin. That's like, I feel like Austin is my place. Like like that's the place out of all the cities where I was most, you know.
I would always say there's all of Texas and then Austin right in the center that's just like so different and quirky, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I love places like the places that feel like an artist hangout. Yeah,
the whole thing. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Okay, so you said it's a 3-book series. So who gets the next book?
So the next book is Taylor Powell. She is the youngest of the 3 women. She's the one who was actually on the date. And she is, I can give a little bit about it. I was just allowed to start saying the title. So the title of book 2 is The Dating Playbook.
Nice.
And you find out in book 1 that she's like 28 years old, a fitness instructor who's trying to get her business on the ground with like YouTube videos, and she has an Instagram, you know, so that's what she's trying to use to build her business. And so she was the only one who was actually happy about the viral video because she thought, you know, it's going to give me some business.
Right.
And it didn't really work out that way for her. But in her book, she's approached by an ex-NFL player who wants her to be his trainer. So again, she's like, okay, so that first one didn't work out, but this is it. You know, he's got friends. He's going to get me on the map. Except she finds out that he doesn't want anyone to know that he's trying to get back in the league. So she can't tell anybody she's working with him.
Oh, that hurts.
The opposite of what she wants. So that's just a little small bit of the dating playbook.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so it's a 3-book series. That's great. So we know we have at least 3 books coming to this.
Yes.
So one of the things I've heard so much is that for this book, it's as much about the relationship, it's much about the friendships as it is about the relationships. And that's something I absolutely love, both as a reader and a writer. I love having just like a big cast of characters because none of us comes about in a vacuum. You know, who we are is a reflection of, you know, where we've been and all of that. And, you know, people's friendships and family and stuff is a great way to show things about them as an individual. So I love stories that give us some of that, you know, so I'm excited to read it for that reason. Did you start off with the idea of, I want to make this, you know, about women's friendship as much as it is, you know,
No, when I was plotting it like my regular, you know, the romances that I write. But it's when I first wrote that first scene with the 3 women, and then the second scene is the 3 women too. The chemistry that they had together as a group. That's what I knew very early on that it would be different because of them. And you know, the funny thing is each of them, because the third one is London Kelly. She's a doctor. She's a pediatric surgeon. And all 3 of them, they didn't really have girlfriends. And when this happens, it's like they realize that's what was missing in their life as well. You know, Taylor is kind of new to the city. Both London and Samaya are all, they're all about their career, so they never really had time, you know, to develop these relationships. And they just realized having someone they could lean on and, you know, talk through was really important. So yeah, once that first scene, it was like magical. Writing like the dialogue between them, and each of their personalities came out with just very little effort on my part. It's like they were playing in my head. And I really need to listen to the audiobook because I only listened to like 5 minutes of it. And according to everything I'm reading, the narrator just really, really hits it out the park with the 3 women. So I need to listen to it because I know in my head, each of them, their distinct personality is just so strong. And yeah, I knew that I had to, that the book would be about those 3 and just the relationship they form together as much as the romance. So you see them a lot. You know, Margarita Night, a girls' night out, is a big thing in the book. They get together every week to just talk about what's going on, and it's something that'll continue throughout the series. So yeah, it's about their friendship as much as it is about the romance between Samaya and Daniel.
That's awesome. And I love that they all sound very different, you know. Well, one's a STEM, one's a doctor, and then, you know, you have the YouTube stars. So so how did you come about or decide the different careers for each of the women? Or was that something that just kind of came about?
Yeah, that's one of those things that just kind of came about. I had Samaya first. I knew I wanted them to be completely different. And like London, she's the oldest. I think she's 34. I think they're 28, 30, and 34. I'm not good at, I don't even remember my own age, so don't ask me to.
I understand.
But it's also like, you know, a big gap because Taylor is, you know, she's young, she didn't go to college, she's trying to do this thing, and then you have the pediatric surgeon who's like on the top of everyone's list as the best in the business type thing. So the differences between them is all really, it's stark, but they work as, you know, friends. So that's, yeah. It's one of those things where I kind of knew what I wanted, like the dynamic I wanted between them. But I didn't necessarily say, oh yeah, I'll make her a fitness instructor or something like that. It just came, that's one of those things that just happened.
That's always magic when stuff like that. So the next one, the dating playbook, when should we expect that?
All I know is that it's next year sometime. I have no idea if it's summer, spring, or summer. because so much has, changed.
Yeah.
And we had to push the book back a little because I turned it in really late because of crazy stuff that's happened in my life. So, yeah, I think everybody's having like just crazy stuff. But it is done. It is, at least it is turned in. And probably sometime in 2021, definitely. I'm just not sure when.
Yeah, with all of the stuff going on in the world, for sure. And I know I've definitely had books move back. From a week to a few months.
Yeah, it's happened to quite a few of my friends have had books, even books that were supposed to be coming out like a little later this year or late summer, have had their books pushed back. It's crazy. I guess I'm lucky that mine didn't go through that. I guess it was just at this time where, too late to push it back, so let's just put it out there and hope things work out.
Well, it looks like it certainly worked. That certainly worked out well for you.
We'll see. We'll see. It's been great so far. Like the Book of the Month Club thing that was one thing that couldn't have been predicted, and that's just been fabulous because I've had so many people who don't even normally read romance, that just decided, at least according to the things on Instagram that I've been tagged in, I only read it if they tag me in it because I usually do not want to see what
that's not your business, right?
I'm not a review person. I don't even the good ones. I'm like, yay, I'm happy you liked it. I really don't even want to know. Don't. But if a person tags me, I will respond. And a lot of them I've seen, saying, romance usually isn't my thing, but I took a chance on this and I was happy. So that's good. That made me feel good. But yeah, that has been fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Awesome. So much has been going on in the world and even in romance land. Yeah, a lot of it affects romance, the whole call for more diversity, which is something we've heard for a long time. But, so just where do you see, I know this is a really broad question. You can answer any way you want. Where do you see things going in the whole romance world?
I hope that they'll just continue, to bring out more books by authors of color, but also specifically Black authors. It was another reason that I decided, maybe now is the time to try to go back to traditional publishing. I was reading the market, which I have my yay brain, I love to write whatever. And then I have that very analytical business side of my brain where I look at the market, I look what's being bought. And I saw that, more diverse books were being bought. So that's when I said, okay, if I'm ever going to try to make a return to traditional publishing, this looks like the time to do it because they're actually buying books by authors who look like me. So I just hope that continues because I think they've seen that, those books do sell. People are open to reading it. So yeah, just continue to buy the books.
Absolutely.
I hope that's what happens.
Yeah. Me as well. I like just, like you said, not just buying the books, investing in them.
Investing and promoting and not treating it like a trend. At one time they were like, well, diversity's hot right now. I'm like, what the hell? Oh my God, that was so cringe-worthy. Diversity is hot right now.
Yeah.
No, it's just us. Always.
Been here, we always have been,
Yeah, it's not a trend. Just continue buying the books and promoting them so that people will realize that, I like these books. They're just as good as any other book I've read.
Yeah.
That's all.
And it's just, like I said, buying the books and then promoting them. And then also in the books themselves, I think especially before, I feel like some publishers might have been like, okay, we want to get some diversity in, but what they really wanted was that same kind of, mainstream white story that they always had, but we're just with brown people. And I'm saying, if you're gonna do this, let's do this for real. let's
Yeah.
let's allow language and things that people do, and just understand that people can look up $10 words, $25 words in the
They
store.
can look up, yeah.
They can look up on Urban Dictionary what something means. Come on now. Or a lot of times the context tells.
It's funny that you say that, because like I always have to deal with that with Harlequin, but I think it was more along Harlequin always had just this box for all of their books. Because I never felt that I kind of like had to water down my books of any type. It was only for me, like my Bayou Dream series, it was more about how Black people in the South talk, some of the language, and I had to argue with, no, that word can stay there. That's how we talk down here. That type of thing. But, I grew up in a small, and I still live in a small mostly Black town on the bayou, and that's what I wrote in the book. Mm-hmm. And I never felt, I know others have said, that they felt kind of like they were asked to change things, but my characters were it was like my little town. I had the nosy people, the nosy Black women in the salon who always was in everybody's business. That's those people. I got them in the book. They belong in the book. It's like, how can you have that town and not have those people? We all know them. So yeah, I always got to write like what I wanted to. It's just like some of the language I had to teach them how we talk down here.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, as long as their editors are open. I mean, I've been really with some of the editors I've worked with at Harlequin, even, my editor, Ed Desire, I love him to death. And, I've been fortunate for the most part, like, okay, if somebody might have a question about something or whatever, or want to change something, if I push back and say, okay, hey, this is the way it would be said. We're going to say black on black Maybach. That's how you say it. You don't you're not going to say the whole thing properly. We would not say that. Just those kind of conversations. And and I truly, truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
So one more thing I want to ask you about before you go, and feel free to tell me that you don't want to talk about this. Where do you see things, or what is your assessment on how things are going with the changes at RWA? Writers of America, for anyone who doesn't know, I doubt that anybody is on here that doesn't know.
I wish them well. That's about, I think it's hard because it was such a hard, it's crazy to me how something that was so important to my life for like 18 years, it's like, okay, so long, I don't really care anymore. And I know
for 18 years?
I was a member for 18 years. I joined in like February of 2002. And like a few months later, I was in Denver at their conference, not knowing anyone, going back to my hotel and eating cheese crackers for lunch because I didn't even know we had luncheons that I paid for. That's how green I was, seriously. And I've been to every conference since. And yeah, it was a huge part of.
You've been to all the conferences. Wow.
Every single conference since.
Wow.
And I was always very much into my local chapter, helping out as much as I can. And it was like on a dime. The day everything went down with RWA was a very bad day in my life completely. It's the day that I lost my sister. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like I had these two big losses on the same day. And it just showed me how much, because compared to losing RWA in a way and losing my sister, it's like you can't even compare the two. Right. But I think that's also why it's like it's easy for me to say, good luck RWA, but my membership ends at the end of the month, I think, and I just have no desire. I'll watch and see what's going on, but I have no desire to even renew my membership, which is crazy to me. Because like I said, it was just so, it's always been so important to me, but it just showed me that there are way more important things. And maybe I'll go back once they've gotten their stuff together. I wish them well, because I really think they're important.
Yes.
You know, the advocacy that RWA was doing, very much believe in that, and I think that we need that as authors, but I can't give them anything anymore right now. I gave way too much to have it end the way it did, and yeah, I have no problem stepping away and letting them fix it and maybe going back, you know, in a few years, but for now I'm kind of done.
I totally respect and understand it.
Yeah.
Not a member of my local chapter anymore. Well, I'm not a member anyway, period. My membership has lapsed. But you know, I am kind of taking a wait and see now. And again, like you said, there's some people that I adore personally that have taken up the mantle and are trying. And so I want to support them if I can, but then say on the other hand, I have my own hurt feelings for, you know, that I like. So I'm trying to you know, walk the line between those two. So like I said, I definitely want to see them succeed.
I fully support the people, and my goodness, Leslie Scantlebury, I want it to work, even if it's just for Leslie, because I absolutely love her.
He's always
so yeah, I'm very much behind the board, and I wish them well. I really want them to do well, because like I said, I think the organization looked out for authors.
Yes.
You know, and it's necessary, but there's a lot that they need to do to fix it.
Right. It's actually a conversation that I definitely want to learn more about what's happening right now, just to see where I am with it. But I mean, I knew you had been, like I said, in the introduction, I talked about you being an advocate for diversity and fiction. I just didn't realize how long that you had been a member. How long were you on the board?
This was, I was in the middle of my 5th year, which would have been my last year, because I wasn't going any type of executive board position. So
I think that is a lot, because even on a local level, I was on the board, I want to say 4 years straight, 2 years as president, 2 years as PR person, and just even that commitment of, you know, the meetings and
it's a lot. Yeah,
it is a lot. So I can't even imagine what it was like to have to, you know, for that many years to be involved.
It was a lot. It was a lot, but when you realize that what you're doing is like making changes, and really, you know, when you can see that it's actually worth your time and effort, yeah, it's a lot, but it makes you feel that, okay, at least this is going to hopefully get somewhere.
Yeah.
Which makes it even worse to see how everything imploded. Because so many people gave so much of their time, you know, devoted to in this volunteer position. And we were doing really good work.
Yeah.
So, there's a little bitterness here that hopefully will. I still have to process everything that happened with RWA. It's like a separate mourning that will have to, you know, take place soon. But as for now, yeah, it is what it is.
Okay. Well, we covered a whole lot. So we covered lots of things. Is there anything else that you wanted to get out there before we end our conversation?
No, just go, you know, enjoy the book. And even though I don't read the reviews unless you send it to me, I appreciate if you have, you know, read the book, go review it and pass it along to a friend. And yeah,
reviews are so important, and they don't need to be, you know, lengthy and tell the whole story of the book. You know, just a few couple, you know, sentences. I enjoyed the book. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. You know, that can be so helpful and beneficial to an author. So yeah, and tell people where they can connect with you on your website and on social media.
Yeah, on social media, way too much. Facebook, my website, farrahrochon.com, has links to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, of course, where I live.
Facebook group. You have a Facebook group as well.
Yeah, what's that?
Your Facebook group.
Yes, I do. I have a fan club. We are small, but we are a fun bunch. I have a fan club on Facebook. I've really gotten into Instagram. I was like pushed into doing more book stuff on Instagram because it used to be just me and my crochet and my Disney and stuff. But now I guess I'm an author on Instagram. But it's actually been really fun. So yeah, find me in any of those places. Tag me in a picture with you with the book, just because I like seeing it. Because I'm not tired of that cover yet. You see, I'm so. I
love the mask that you have.
Right. I know.
Yeah, the mask that has the boyfriend project on. That is so freaking cool.
I know. It's so cute. It's so cute. It's somewhere else in the house. But I knew I wanted to. When this whole thing happened, I knew I would have to get something to commemorate it. So I'll always have that as, look, this is my coronavirus book, and it'll be a keepsake from me.
You know, and you just mentioned it now, unless I missed it when I muted myself just for those couple seconds. You didn't even talk about your knitting, did you? Or
my crochet? Yeah.
You crochet. Okay.
Okay. I try to knit. I'm not a good but I do. I love crochet. I haven't done anything in a while because I've been so busy. But yeah, if you need a baby blanket, I got a bunch in the closet. Let me know.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the story behind the story of The Boyfriend Project. I cannot wait to read it, and I know if people haven't read it already that they can't wait to read it either. Hey there, Lisa. So again, thank you for coming and spending some time with us, Farrah, and I wish you much success. I can't imagine more places I can see that book, but I hope to see them everywhere in all the places.
I'm not tired of it yet.
I know, right? How could you? So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who joined us and everyone who watches it in playback. We appreciate you. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.